Love Putin. Crazy.
It did.
What are they saying?
On
We
David
love- like, we love
David Allen's
Putin.
website, how about, Putin's our guy and, the Russians are there for good reasons.
Are you serious?
Corruption, they're rooting all the
Seriously?
corruption.
Oh, come
in
Not
Ukraine.
from
No.
David Allen, but.
Not from David,
people
on his
post-
website.
I haven't read it yet, but I heard something about that too, Greg.
Well, somebody posting that on his site.
Posted on his website, they're not
Yeah,
David.
it's not him.
That's why
It's
you
not
gotta
David.
hate
It's comments underneath.
Yeah. Because he said, pray for Ukraine, basically.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, yeah.
That's what you open yourself up to when you.
Well, right.
do that.
That's my,
Well, that's why you don't get on
that's why
social
you
media.
don't go.
And I never-
Up it up, things down, run it.
I post anything.
Oh, my word.
I only post city stuff.
Nothing like it.
You know what I post? Nothing.
Nothing,
They're not there.
You're
Um,
unknown.
I never have an issue on social media.
Well, you used to have a Facebook page. You had
I've never had a Facebook page in my life.
There's somebody else with your name.
somebody did it for you.
Oh, for my election. Yeah, it wasn't
The
mine.
election.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I
I was
guess.
trying to post to it for a while.
Yeah, that was, I guess it was Kelly,
Did
probably.
Kelly do
Yeah, I never saw it though.
it?
So,
Yeah, most people do it.
That's why she said, vote for the most handsome candidate.
Yeah.
Melanie has an Instagram site, but she's never seen it.
I apparently have a
It's
Twitter,
her-
I have a
it's her
Twitter
baking
site
one.
too, because
I go to,
when that first all started happening, we set a bunch of stuff up for our company and we had
Oh,
everybody
right.
By the way,
like, we had a company do it
Are
for
we
us.
already recording, Doug?
Yeah, I had.
Oh, whoops.
That's all right, I don't care.
I just want to make.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
I follow your.
We had a company
Instagram.
set all that up for us, but I never
Yeah,
used
some of
it.
the ones-
Yeah.
I did have an Instagram for a
I
little
follow
while.
your Instagram.
Well, you know, I don't have it
Your
anymore.
Instagram account.
Well, no, it doesn't exist anymore.
We're good.
Okay.
I killed it. I used it for a little while, but it's gone.
Good evening and welcome to the regular twice monthly meeting of Westminster's Mayor and Common Council. Please note that our meetings, although open to the public here at City Hall, will continue to be available and streamed live on the city's YouTube page as well as the Community Media Center channel and website. Now I'll begin as we do every meeting with the pledge to the flag, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For the record, I'd like to state that there was a closed meeting of the council on Monday, February 14th, 2022, in accordance with the general provisions article, section 3-306C2 of the annotated code of Maryland. And without objection, it is noted that the minutes of tonight's meeting reflect that the common council met in a closed session on Monday, February 14th, 2022, at 8:08 PM pursuant to the general provision article, section 3-305B10, to discuss public security. If the public body determines that the public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or public security, including the deployment of fire and police services and staff, and the development and implementation of emergency plans. The motion to do so was made by Mr. Cavacci and seconded by Mr. Hoff and was approved unanimously. Following staff members were in attendance: City Administrator Imholz, Chief Ledwell, until 8:15. The Common Council took no action during the session and the closed meeting adjourned at 8:27 PM. We have several items for approval of minutes on the agenda this evening. We have the Mayor and Common Council closed meeting of December 13th, 2021. The Mayor and Common Council closed meeting of January 24th, 2022. The Mayor's Community Meeting minutes of February 7th, 2022. Bless you.
Thank you.
The Mayor and Common Council special meeting of February 9th, 2022. The Mayor and Common Council closed meeting of February 9th, 2022. The Mayor and Common Council meeting of February 14th, 2022. And the Mayor and Common Council closed meeting of February 14th, 2022. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
And a motion by Mr. Dayup to approve the minutes of these meetings and a second by Mr. Hoff. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it and the ayes have it. And the minutes are approved. We have 4 items on the consent calendar this evening. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve the consent calendar by Mr. Dayhoff, second by Mr. Cavacci. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it, and the consent calendar is approved. Now it's time for the report from the mayor. Dr. Becker,
Thank you. We're moving right along this evening.
we
so-
are. Sorry, I caught you.
That's okay.
unprepared.
No, I'm prepared. So just a couple things to report on. Last week, Mr. Glass and I spent a few hours with the film crew filming out at the Pure Water Westminster water recycling plant. So they're putting together a short film on our for informational purposes and sort of advertisement purposes for our pure water plant. So that was a fun hour or so that I was out there. We both had to have powder on our noses. Throw that one out there. This wasn't really a mayoral role, but on Saturday, I was able to referee the Carroll County Public Schools powerlifting meet. And so I don't know if you know about powerlifting. I've been powerlifting for a number of years, but it's a phenomenal sport. And every year, Carroll County Public Schools puts together a powerlifting meet for students in the high school who are powerlifting. And this is probably about the 6th or 7th year that I've refereed this meet. And it's really great to see all these young people come out and move insane amounts of weight. I think some of the winners in the weight class lifted over 1,000 pounds that day, the total of their 3 lifts. I mean, just amazing, amazing athletes. On March 22nd, so looking ahead just a little bit, on March 22nd at 5 p.m. At 45 West Main Street, I will be hosting a community meeting regarding information about the pool. I know last week a memo went out to the community regarding the construction on the Westminster pool and when that, when the construction is slated for, what is that going to look like? How long is that going to take? And so the meeting on March 22nd will be to answer some questions, to show off the plan for the pool and to really get people excited about what's going to be in that space come 2023. And then finally, just a side note here, on March 12th, I know we have a lot going on in the city on that day, which I'm sure Mrs. Gruber will fill us in on later. But 7 p.m. on March 12th, there is a play taking place at McDaniel. There are 2 plays taking place at McDaniel. One play is called The S'mores Wars, and the other play is called The One Star Resort. These plays are being put on by Barrier Free's Inclusive Theater Company, and they're taking place at McDaniel Hall. Alumni Hall at McDaniel, and their theater company is composed of neurodiverse adults aged 18 and plus with their mentors, and they create full-scale productions. The reason I'm bringing this up is that on 7 p.m. on March 12th, there is a cameo appearance where I will be appearing as myself in the play, and so I think that I'm going to let folks know about that in case they would like to come out and support this theater company. So that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor Becker. I'm glad you get to play yourself because I know you're good at that.
Thank you.
Sure. So we'll move right along. Reports from standing committees. Begin with, speaking of the arts, we'll begin with Mr. Dayhoff to give a report on the Carroll County Arts Council.
It's a great segue. The Carroll County Arts Council will present the 15th annual Peep Show. It's coming up live at the Town Mall of Westminster. Let's see here. It's the 15th annual. It'll be held Friday, April the 8th through Monday, April the 18th at the Town Mall. And that'll be my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Economic and Community Development Committee, Mr. Hoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. We ended up not having an Economic and Community Development Committee meeting on February 16th for a variety of reasons, but our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, March 17th at 3:30 p.m. We will be meeting in person at 45 West Main Street.
Okay.
And that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Hoff. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I can report that the committee met today this afternoon. We had a very good conversation with Mr. Graham Dodge of Magic to discuss a variety of initiatives that Magic has brought to us for our consideration. We had the opportunity to gather some more information about all of those items and be able to use this new information to help factor into our planning for the budget process. Personnel Committee, Ms. Gilbert.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Public Safety Committee, Mr. Kavachi.
So I have a few things, Mr. President. The chief has informed me that he is getting ready for Leadership Carol, which is up and coming, and it seems like he's got some neat stuff planned for that group when they come in, maybe police dogs and SWAT stuff and all kinds of neat things. So, and the chief actually went through that program himself, so I'm sure he's going to do a great job, educating that group of folks in Leadership Carol about what WPD does. We also had a notable arrest that took place. Mr. Donald Ely, is that how you say his name? Ely. He's a pretty regular shopper, apparently, in our automobiles and things around town. He was arrested, I don't know, less than a year ago and locked up for breaking into cars and things like that. Got out and went right back to it. And through the good work of our police department, they arrested him again. And he's currently in custody, which is wonderful. But, the chief pointed out to me, it's important that a lot of these thefts people like him are opportunistic. If a car's unlocked, they're going to check the doors, they're going to go in, they're going to steal stuff. If a shed's unlocked, they're going to go in and take things. So, it's incumbent upon folks to make sure that they're locking their property up and not leaving their cars unlocked and, keys in their cars and things like that. Police department is working on an overdose to action grant. So that's good. I know the chief is very proactive when it comes to those things. The department's also been continuing to get a bunch of reports of scams where people are asking folks to go out and get gift cards. It actually happened in my own company. One of my account managers got an email from me saying to go out and buy some gift cards. It was a gift for one of our clients. He actually did it. Luckily, he didn't send the codes. Right before he actually sent all the codes for $1,000 worth of gift cards, he actually called me and said, "Hey, this just doesn't seem like you." And I'm like, "It's not me." So luckily, he was able to get his money back, or our money back. And then we've seen a little bit of a decrease in shoplifting from our big box stores, which is wonderful news. And I know that, again, the department works with those folks to try to mitigate those things and help them do a better job of helping us so that isn't going on. So I know that's partially, at least somewhat, due to the good work of the chief and his staff. So that's my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kavachi. And can you give a report for the Public Works Committee as well?
I will. The mayor has already talked about the videography that's taken place, so I won't go into any detail about that. Slate roof, I think there's still tarp up there, right? On top. So that's going to start on 3/7, which is good news. Annual paving, which everybody loves the paving projects. I know every once in a blue moon when my street gets paved, I just love driving down a nice new flat street. So I know any of the folks that are in line to get that paving done are going to be excited. That's getting ready to start up. And so one of the things that Jeff had mentioned to me, I'm sorry, Dr. Glass had mentioned to me was that apparently, I guess with these storms we just recently had, and I saw this after you had communicated this to me. So a lot of other municipalities, Baltimore City being one of them, put a boatload of salt and brine down for the storm that didn't actually happen. We got a little bit of ice on some trees, but our folks, was it Steve Strasburg? Is that who took the decision? So Steve made the call, which is always risky, not to do it. And it saved the city a bunch of money and a bunch of man hours. And he made 100% the right call. And I have to say, I think you guys are 100. right now, about 1,000, I should say, for this past winter. You guys put it down when we needed it, and you didn't put it down when we didn't need it. I drove into Baltimore over the weekend and the roads were just white dust everywhere because it never actually happened. So great work there. That's it, Mr. President. Sorry for 2 lengthy reports.
That's all right. Thank you very much. Lots of information to share. Recreation and Parks Committee, Mr. Dayhall.
Oh, no report, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I have nothing for the Technology Committee. I'll move on now to council comments and discussion. This is the time when council members have the opportunity to share anything that they'd like to discuss that is not on the agenda elsewhere or in a committee report. And we'll begin with Mr. Hoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple things I'll mention is number one, the Maryland Municipal League's Legislative Committee is wrapping up our bill review. We have our last meeting with bill review on Wednesday. And then there's a lot past that, but that really involves the staff work as the bills are moving through the different chambers. So it's been an interesting experience being on that legislative committee. To no surprise to all of you, I'm a pretty vocal member. Yes. So I think for the most part, that's liked, maybe not by everyone, but that's okay.
It's okay.
And the other thing I will mention, but so I will keep you posted. And matter of fact, one of our agenda item addresses something related to the MML Legislative Committee, which we'll get to under new business. The other thing I will mention is I was also at the powerlifting competition, but as a parent, my son was competing in that, and I think it's a great life lesson because I know my son started going about 5.5 years ago when I started going to the gym because of all my back issues. And, the one thing, I kind of think of kind of relating it to city government is just continually making progress and you will get somewhere. And I think that's very much what these kids do. I know my son only weighs 150 pounds and his total weight lift was 945 pounds. Which is pretty darn oppressive for his weight. But that's because he kept on plugging away. And I think that's what our council has been doing over this since I've been here this past 9 months is keep on plugging away and slowly but surely make progress. And hopefully, 5.5 years from now, we'll be looking back on a lot of really great accomplishments that we've made. So just kind of tying that back in. So that's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huff. Mr. Kavachi.
Thanks, Mr. President. Cathedral thinking, right? So the only thing I wanted to comment on is I am super excited because this will be our last meeting before it happens, that we are getting back into the strolls and they're going to be full bore.
Yep.
I'm real excited about our up and coming Celtic canter, not so much the cantering part, but more the Celtic bar hopping part that I'll be doing. So that's get excited. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm hopeful that it'll be a big, giant event. And hopefully all of our strolls are just record crowds and hopefully we can't even barely move on Main Street. That would be wonderful. That's it, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kavachi. And normally we do council comments. If I have a comment, I do it last, but I can't resist the lead in
I think
from
it's
Mr. Kavachi. So we're very excited that our Parks and Recreation Director, Ms. Gruber, has come up with an innovative new part of the Celtic Canter, the 0.5K. And when we heard about this, the mayor and council talked about it together. We just couldn't resist the opportunity. So the mayor and council are all going to participate in the 0.5K together. We think this is it's a nice event and we're looking forward to it. Now I have to say, Ms. Gilbert is going to do the real 5K ahead of that because she actually is athletic. Mr. Hoff could probably do it too if he wanted to. But anyway, we're looking forward to doing this, Ms. Gruber. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to help prep Mr. Kavachi for his later activities.
Yeah. Build up a third.
That's right. That's right. So
I was hoping it was a 0.1K, but I guess 0.5.
So we'll move on to Ms. Gilbert for any comments she may have.
I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the commissioners for their service for their past 8 years, I guess. And their willingness to work with all the municipalities. I attended the state of county address at the Carroll County Arts Council last week and just wanted to thank them. I know the last couple of years have been challenging for almost any elected official. So I just wanted to do a shout out to them. I also wanted to thank all those folks that are working on the legislative committee organized by Mike McMullen in the Chamber of Commerce. We met again this morning, actually 11:30, still morning hours. Many of the folks work really hard, keeping an eye out on all the proposed legislation through the House and the Senate and everything that would be affecting Carroll County and our business community. So if anybody has any thoughts or concerns about any upcoming bills, just email me or give me a shout. We have a couple more meetings left and then that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Mr. Dayhoff.
Thank you for calling to my attention the 0.5K. I'll be on the medic unit that day. I'll bring extra oxygen. The state of the county was done really well, and I really appreciate it. And I publicly thanked the commissioners on behalf of the mayor and council for their work with the municipalities. And also want to make sure that I give a shout out to Council Member Huff. I served on the legislative committee for quite a number of years, and it is an awful lot of work. It's an awful lot of work. I also picked up weight because I stopped by the bagel place, Einstein Bagel. I think it's still there before I went to the meetings.
We've been online the whole year.
Oh, my word, have you?
Yeah.
So I used to go down there and it's a long trip. Yeah, it's a long trip, but I really appreciate your work on that. That's really important stuff. The MML does legislative advocacy extremely well. We're well known for it. So thank you for that work. That's all my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Yeah, I did a year on the legislative committee. It's a lot of work. It really is.
Yeah.
So thanks for doing that for us, Mr. Hoff. We appreciate your service there. Move on now to unfinished business. There's no unfinished business of what I'm aware. Does anybody have any unfinished business to bring before the council? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. We have 2 items under new business. The first is the approval of contract carnival services for Fall Fest. And we'll go to Ms. Gruber for that.
Yes, good evening. In the past, Westminster Fall Fest was operated by a 501c3 organization, Fall Fest Incorporated, in cooperation with the city. And historically, Fall Fest Inc. would procure and contract with a vendor to provide rides, games, and concessions for the 4-day festival. Since the dissolution of Fall Fest Inc. In 2018, the city became responsible for procuring and selecting the carnival services provider. So in 2019, the city issued its first request for proposals for carnival services with an option to renew the contract annually for 3 years, provided that vendor gave us satisfactory performance. Snyder's Amusements was the selected vendor. They performed each year at a satisfactory or above satisfactory level, resulting in an annual contract renewal. The 2019 contract is now expired, and in response to the contract expiration, the city placed this opportunity back out to bid on January 14th, 2022. The request for proposals for carnival services was announced and posted on eMaryland Marketplace and the city's website. Funding for this project is allocated in the city's operational budget, and the total contract amount payable to the vendor is based on amusement ticket sales during Fall Fest operations. This year, one company, Snyder's Attractions from Greencastle, Pennsylvania, responded to the RFP. The bid response was complete and the proposal's content exceeded the minimum guidelines outlined in the bid documents. Snyder's Attractions has a long history of providing quality, reliable carnival services for this event. Staff recommends that the mayor and common council accept a proposal from Snyder's Attractions to provide carnival services for Fall Fest as outlined in the proposal for a minimum term of 1 year with an option to renew for up to 3 years, and authorize the mayor's execution of the associated contract.
All right, very good. Thank you, Ms. Gruber. Does anybody have it? Well, let's get a motion first. We have a motion to approve the contract.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second it.
There's been a motion by Ms. Gilbert and a second by Mr. Dayhoff. Is there any discussion or any questions from Ms. Gruber?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dayhoff?
they do a good job. Yeah, they do a good job. They're very customer service oriented. I have volunteered for Fall Fest since forever. And I've been recently volunteering with the Westminster Band, and they do a really, really nice job. So thank you, Ms. Gruber. Thank you, Mr. President. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Dayhoff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, move on to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, and the ayes have it. And we will continue using Snyder's attractions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is a discussion on the Maryland State Highway User Revenue Bill that's currently before the Maryland General Assembly. This is something that Mr. Hoff wanted to bring to our attention. So I will turn to Mr. Hoff for this.
Thank you, Mr. President. So earlier, I guess towards the end of last year, when the legislative committee for the Maryland Municipal League first met, we decided that highway user revenues was going to be one of our legislative priorities. My understanding it's been a legislative priority before, but we really wanted to push it this year, partly out of the thought that there is, quite frankly, the state budget is much better than it's been in a long time. So I'll be frank, if we have any chance of getting the highway user revenue bill passed to return things to the pre-2019, 2009 recession levels and eliminate the sunset provision, now is truly the year to do it. And just for the viewing public, I just want you to get a sense. I pulled this out of our budget, which Ms. Imholz had provided me. Back in 2009, it looked like we got somewhere around 850,000, and then it went down to under 100 and stayed under 100 for a while. This is this chart right here. And I believe just now in fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023, we're finally back at the levels that we were getting in 2009. So that's had a devastating impact for us, and we're not alone. Because, in 2009, it looks like we were, as I said, getting about 850. And that's, I think we're due 823 in fiscal year 2022. And the projection for fiscal year 2023 is 845,000. So my point to this is that the bill related to getting it back to the pre-2019 recession levels is being heard on the Senate side in person on Wednesday, March the 9th. They already have enough people lined up for testimony and all that. I volunteered with staff, MML staff, that they need some extra live bodies, that I'd be glad to go down there and sit in the gallery. The House side is on Thursday, March the 10th, and that is still via Zoom. But one of the things that MML is looking for is an official letter of support for these bills from the various municipalities. So what I'm here tonight is to ask that we make a motion and approve a motion to send an official letter of support down to Annapolis to both the House and the Senate in support of this bill. I've emailed some particulars to staff, even providing some documentation regarding some examples of how this has impacted us and how it makes it more difficult for us to maintain our roads. So the idea is that we make a motion tonight to put in a letter of support, which then Ms. Imholz will work on putting together, and then that the mayor could sign and submit on our behalf. So does anyone have any specific questions related to that?
Also, before we go to discussion, we need to get a motion. So, Mr. Hoff, I'll take it that you've made a motion, although you've assisted with debate, and we will not put that against you.
Okay.
But
How's Doug over there?
so there's
Okay. Okay.
Doug staying calm, it's okay. Mr. Barber staying calm. So there's a motion to authorize the mayor to send a letter on behalf of the city of Westminster, in support of the highway user revenue bill.
And I'll second
And
it.
there's a second from Mr. Dayhoff. And is there any discussion?
In the past, we've done, yes, I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Mr. Dayhoff.
Thank you, sir. In the past, we passed a resolution to help write it. But the letter would be great. Yeah. Can we get a copy of the letter? Because I've written about HUR before. Maybe I'll take the opportunity to
Well,
write it.
certainly, yeah, if we do a letter, we'll certainly show you.
Okay, cool. I really appreciate your work
We
on
won't keep
this.
it from you.
I think the first time it was a legislative action request was 1976. We've been working on this a long time. I would love, you were the Assistant Secretary of Transportation. You should have fixed it then.
In the Glendenning administration, we supported the highway user revenues. It wasn't necessary.
It would be fun if it were a dedicated revenue stream. It really should be. And that's what it was originally intended to be in the 1950s. But it has not. I wholeheartily support it, Mr. Huff. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure, thank you. Any further discussion?
That's great. Yeah. We should absolutely.
Okay. I just, my only comment is that, I mean, I'm certainly support this. I remember, and Mr. Cavacci will remember, we had some tough years when, when this money went away for a little while. And the city was really struggling during that time period. I know Mr. Glass was trying to find pennies to patch potholes, and if I may be alliterative. And it was tough, and the city found ways to do it. And we made the decision at that time to wean ourselves off of this revenue because we were concerned that it would go away and not come back. And even if it did come back, it would go away again. So certainly some stability, some certainty, would be welcome, I think, to municipalities across the state if they do wind up having a dedicated source of revenue, as opposed to this being something that, can be during difficult times, taken away by the legislature or even by the county, who held on to a lot of those funds in years past as well. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to, if the legislature can take.
So, Mr. President, I think that ties into, one of my, with serving with you on finance. I think that one thing that's been very clear to me is that we try to be conservative. So I agree, even if this gets approved, and we need to always be prepared that, and I think we are pretty conservative with how we spend and budget our money going forward, that nothing is ever a guarantee.
Right.
And that we don't want to be in a similar position where we suddenly lose all this revenue, 3 years from now because state budgets are a lot worse. So I agree with that. But I think we do a lot of, from what I have seen so far with being on the finance committee, we do a really good job of kind of planning things out and being pretty conservative.
Well, Mr. President,
Mr. Cavacci.
I didn't feel like I had to say anything, but just, I guess, sort of piggyback a little. The one thing we have to remember is this is fantastic and I 100% wholeheartedly support it. But the bottom line is the state can do, triple it or quadruple it. The problem is we still may never see it because at the end of the day, the county still has to make the decision, if I'm not mistaken, to give us this money. Isn't that correct?
No.
I thought this flows through the county
No.
first.
It comes
It's
directly
direct to us?
Yes,
I'm mistaken.
it comes directly to us.
Okay.
That's not always been the case in the past.
I thought the county kept some of it.
Actually, I think.
County does give us some of it. County does give
I
some.
thought so.
But we get a direct stream
That's
from the
We get a
state.
There's part of the money goes to the county and then the county then passes some of that through to us. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought so.
I believe it used to be that it all went through the county, but what happened when the Hogan administration early on brought it back, one of the things that MML lobbied for, as I recall, was, some guarantee that municipalities would receive funds directly. And so I think that's why, what you're thinking of, Mr. Cavacci, is I think that's the difference in how the program is run now as opposed to how it was run prior to that when we did lose it.
And the bill specifically allocates some to the county and some to the municipality. So it's clear that it's a distinct stream.
Right, any further discussion about this? All right. So the motion is to authorize the mayor to send a letter. Presumably she will work with the staff to do that. We'll get the letter out in time for the hearings. So all in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have, and the ayes have it. And we will look forward to seeing a draft from the mayor. Thank you. All right. That's it for new business. Departmental reports. We will turn it over to our city administrator, Ms. Imhoff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilmember Dayhoff, do you have a report from the fire department?
Bingo's back.
Sorry?
Bingo's back.
Okay,
That's exciting.
very exciting.
I've been the caller for 2 weeks in a row. I have not seen you in the audience.
Sounds like I need to.
May the record reflect that.
I think that Ms. Imhoff has enough demands on her. time.
You think so? I would call all your numbers.
Heard it here.
Okay.
Move along, Mr. Dayhoff.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so the thing we're most excited about is next weekend, Celtic Cancer. So we're gonna move over to the Recreation and Parks Department. Ms. Gruber.
Yes, I'm gonna take 2 weekends yet. March 12th is the date for the Celtic Cancer.
We're so excited.
I started to sweat a little bit. when you said that. We have some really exciting things going on this year. One of the most exciting is probably our best participation in the pub crawl since we have been doing this event. We have 12 bars and restaurants participating this year. Lost Lion, Maggie's, 84 East, O'Lorden's, Raphael's, Johansson's, Mediterraneo, Rock Salt, The Stables, Sergio's, Ernie's Place, and Paradiso. And so our participation in this was so great, we actually had to hire a second trolley. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to circulate amongst all of these bars and restaurants in quick enough time to pick people up and get them to where they needed to go. So we are certainly excited about that. We also have Westminster's Strongest Kid competition that we added to the festival this year. Kids will participate in 3 different Highland style games: a caber toss, a stone put, and a sheep toss. They'll participate in 3 different age groups: 4 to 6, 7 to 9, and 10 to 12. And the little Irish man or woman with the longest distance all added together will win a very special prize. So we're happy to be hosting that, and we're excited that that will attract some new and interested participants that might not be there to run. And moreover,
Is this a direct result of having elected 2 weightlifters as mayor in a row?
That's true. We have had back-to-back powerlifting mayors. What is going on?
And our most exciting partnership is for the race. We have partnered with Athletes Serving Athletes. And for those of you that might not know about that, their mission is to elevate the quality of life for individuals with limited mobility by empowering them to train for and participate in mainstream running events. So you will see teams of athletes out there serving other athletes that may have limited mobility so that they can accomplish the goal of a 5K. So we're certainly looking forward to all of these new facets to the event. And we are still chugging along at about 100 runners, surpassing our registration benchmark from 2020. So we're sitting at 800 people registered today. Going into the 2020 event, we had 895 people registered the Friday night before the event. So we are going strong, and we're looking for a great day in the city of Westminster.
Mr. President,
Mr. Kavachi?
so I guess we're gonna have to register. The-
Oh.
You get 6 more now that have to register. Or at least 5. Yeah,
When
at least 5 of us.
Mr. Dayhoff said he just doesn't realize it yet.
No, I assumed Ann was already registered.
Yes, I am already registered.
When is the 0.1?
I was gonna-
I like 0.1 better.
The point,
Council
the
0.1.
point 1.
Let's do a council.
I make a motion that it's a point 1.
The 0.5K is at 11 a.m.
Okay.
I'll be just getting up.
And there's a great promotional video on Facebook if you haven't seen it. So,
Featuring Mr. Kavachi.
Yeah.
no, but that might be the
Next
promotional
year.
video for next year.
You're right.
Maybe you can get some slow motion with me kind of bouncing along.
Right after Mr. Kavachi got elected, he ran 2 blocks in his bare feet and apprehended a criminal.
That was the .05. Kev.
You really did. Okay. 11
These
a.m.
events take an enormous amount of staff time, staff brain power. There's a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and X, Y, Z. And Ms. Gruber and her team do such an excellent job. There's quite a lot of other staff that are involved in these events. I say this every
Here,
time we have
here.
an event, just to remind everybody. There are contracts that have to be signed and filed, so the clerk's involved, the finance department's involved in making sure everybody gets paid on time in advance. The streets department obviously helps shut things down, set things up. The police department's looking out for things. We even drag planning in sometimes to help out. So it's all hands on deck, and we really appreciate the Recreation and Parks Department for all that they do. So thank you, Ms. Gruber.
Mr. President, I was just going to note that the staff does a phenomenal job with these. And, it's really great for a city of our size that we have these kind of events. And I know personally, I ended up buying 2 VIP tables for the wine stroll. And I have friends coming that have never been to Westminster before. They're coming from Baltimore. And I have another couple that's coming from northern Baltimore County that I don't think has been out here before, all for the wine stroll. So it's a great opportunity for people from out of the area to kind of get a taste for Westminster. So I commend the city for, having that long history of doing these great events, because it is phenomenal. So anyway, sorry, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, just real quick, I just can't let this opportunity pass by. My wife was at a Dave Matthews concert a couple of years ago in New Jersey. People sitting in front of her, they struck a conversation up. She mentioned she's from Westminster, and they said, "Oh yeah, we go there every year for their oyster stroll from New Jersey."
Wow.
And they knew nothing else about Westminster, but they come for the oyster stroll she runs into a concert in New Jersey. Crazy, unbelievable.
All right, thank you. So we're gonna, with no other questions or comments for the rec department, we'll move over to the housing department. Mr. Brown?
Thank you. Just wanted to advise the board that the mayor and council, that we're concluding our process of refreshing our waiting list. And at the next meeting, I'll give you a full report in terms of the numbers, what the actual numbers are at that point in time. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions for housing? We've got no report for the Human Resources Department, but we will move on to the Planning Department.
I have no report tonight.
Wow,
Any questions for the Planning Department?
that might be the first time.
All right. All right, so then we'll move on to the Police Department. Chief Cledwell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. To follow up on what Councilman Carvaci talked about earlier, Leadership Carroll, class of a little over 40 this year. So they have monthly events, and March event is Justice and Law Day, scheduled for March the 8th. So myself and other leaders of local agencies put together a day's program so that the class can be exposed to Carroll County's criminal justice system, the law enforcement agencies, their strategies and challenges, the court system, state's attorney's office, and more. They get to go through several scenarios as if they were police officers. They get to tour a room that's set up by an outreach member in the state's attorney's office called Threats in Plain Sight, which is good for parents of adolescents. They get Q&A with the agency leaders. We give them a canine demonstration, a working lunch with Circuit Court Judge Hecker. And they learn about all types of interesting things related to the criminal justice system. So I know Mr. McMullen always says it's a favorite day for Leadership Carroll class. A follow-up to the internet and telephone scams. So mostly vulnerable adults are targeted in that. We push out through our outreach social media outlets tips to avoid becoming a victim of these particular scams. The easiest thing to do is hang up or not follow any direction to withdraw money under any circumstance until you talk to a family member or hang up and call the local police department. The issue is that the scammers are pretty good at convincing people either on the phone or on email. Usually it's some type of a threat that money's owed to the IRS. A family member needs to be bailed out, something that plays on the emotions of the adults. So we would ask if you have somebody in your family, it probably just takes one conversation to prevent them from becoming the next victim of one of these scams. They do happen too frequently. Our overdose to action grant funded case manager position. So this is part of our comprehensive strategy to address the drug epidemic. We do it with enforcement, distribution. We do a lot of education, prevention, and in this case, follow-up and resource connection for individuals with addiction. So this is an excellent opportunity to have this grant-funded position, work directly at the police department, supplement our police officers when they respond to these types of calls for service. It also frees up the police officer to get back to their primary responsibilities while the case manager will coordinate the follow-up. And I believe, unless there are any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions for the chief or the police department? We are going to wrap things up with the Public Works Department, Mr. Glass.
So I'd like to say I have a report that would compete with Ms. Griver, but
No,
Always
that's
impossible.
not going to be the case.
not happen.
So I just want to wrap things up. Councilmember Kavachi mentioned the cost-saving measures in the Public Works Department, specifically relating to decisions made about brining the streets or putting down salt. Mr. President, you mentioned that in the past, city employees have had to look for pennies in order to patch potholes. And I am very proud to say that this staff continues to serve under those that goal and those values of trying to make the best decisions that have the least impact on the budget and have the greatest impact on the residents and the continuity of operations. So while we have a larger budget, thankfully, because that's a very stressful situation to be under when you have to really pinch pennies, this staff does operate under that kind of value. So I appreciate it as staff, and I'll make sure that you are also aware that they always have that lens of what's the best thing for the city. How can we do it for the cheapest amount? How can we get the most value and still deliver what the council and the departments are looking for? With that concludes the departmental reports.
Thank you, Ms. Imhoff. And I think we're all well aware that staff works in that mode, and we're very, very proud of the work that they do from, the action you just mentioned to setting goats out there to
That was,
take care of, the
Reservoir.
we did do that.
We did do that indeed. And
One of us named Roy after my dad.
So thank you very much. So the final item on our agenda is citizens' comments. When we invite the public to address the mayor and council on any issues that pertain to tonight's agenda or any other city issues. Let me remind everyone, this is an opportunity for the public to share their thoughts and concerns, not engage in an exchange or debate or answer questions. For citizens not attending the public meeting, we invite you to send us your comments or concerns via email at comments@westminstermaryland.gov. All comments received by email will be shared with the mayor and council. Commenters who send us an email should include their address and phone number with their comments. Now, is there anyone here with us tonight who wishes to be heard? If so, please give us your name and address for the record. Hearing no one? That concludes our agenda and the meeting. Our next regular meeting will be held on Monday, March 14th. Without objection, we are adjourned. Please stay safe and healthy.
Sorry, we all immediately look towards you, Lindy.
They always
Hey, sometimes Lindy has a comment.
Sometimes she
does.
does. The first time it's happened. Considering our audience, our audience is one person.
Is that Bunker's milk?
Yep. Is that winner? This was a 10-pound PR.
I got my emails.
Only weighs
What's he weigh?
151 pounds.
Oh, you're not gonna reach out?
No, I'm gonna cry.
I got mine in the mail.